Those of you who know me know that I'm not very comfortable using the term God. And I suppose the reason for that is, first of all, I grew up a Catholic. And I was quite certain at an early age that whatever the Catholics meant by God was not what God was. But definitely something about that experience stuck with me pretty well. And that was that when I first went to Catholic grade school, the first day, the first hour, first minute of our experience in Catholic grade school was they passed out this green book that had and the title was Baltimore Catechism 52. And you open it up, and the very first thing it says is, God made me to know, love, and serve him in this world. And I believed that. I believed it then. And I really tried to live that. And can you imagine a little kid about 6 years old? I was very awkward when I was 6. I don't know, some of you have seen pictures of me. There's a picture of me as an altar boy and a Boy Scout. I have a body about this big and a head about this big on top of it. It looks pretty odd, I think. But, those altar boy bow ties that for the holidays are very charming. So, I tried to live that. And my time in church, which was every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, was always a time where I learned to escape from church by feeling into my heart and feeling something wonderful there. I learned to breathe into my heart and to feel there with my breath something wonderful. And I did that every day as a kid. And I had some pretty far out experiences doing that. Moving on in my life, I grew up, went through puberty, became completely disillusioned with, well, one of the early things that disillusioned me was being taught about sex by people who had never had it. I thought, that is really strange. And that had, even I'm an innocent kid, right? And I was at least smart enough to know that whatever they said about sex, they had no idea what they were talking about. It had zero credibility with me. Imagine how I felt a few years later when I pulled up at this special place I had chosen to go parking with a girl for the first time, and my damn parish priest had beat me into it. And his car was there, and the windows were really steamed. That hosed it for me in Catholicism forever. But coming to college, losing myself in that whole experience, losing myself in the struggle to find my place in the world and to create for myself a career, and to begin to try to think about how I would consider family and etc. and so forth. I lost myself in all of that, in politics, in caring. The whole time of it was a very big tumble for me. And until one day, I took LSD and remembered something that I had forgotten in the whole process of growing up, which was that there is something really, really wonderful in my heart. Now, LSD didn't make anything less confusing, and in fact, it made some things quite a lot more confusing. But what I learned through the whole experience, certainly coming out of the time when I was doing LSD, leaving politics because I just saw it as a snake pit, really trying to, really understanding that I really needed to find myself again, I relied upon that wonderful feeling that I found in my heart, and what I learned from everything I had done previously, which I really was completely clear about, was that I absolutely could not allow myself to be distracted by all the crazy shit going on around me. In fact, I shouldn't allow myself ever to be distracted by anything, and I should always establish my awareness in the wonderful feeling that was available to me in my heart and go through my days in touch with, thinking from, speaking from, acting from, doing what facilitated the expansion of that wonderful experience and its expression in the field of my life. Taking LSD, and in those days there was, a whole sort of countercultural discussion about God going on. I really did want to understand what God meant, and I really wanted to find God. There was a book, one of the few books available about, Indian spirituality in those days, was a book called How to Know God by Christopher Isherwood, and it was a very poor, still is, a very poor translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And the only reason I bought it was because I wanted to figure out how to know God. But there's only, and in those days and ever even more so now, there's the this path and the that path and the 17,864 other paths, and maybe there's 7.5 billion paths. Everybody has their own path. But the fact is, for me, there's only one path. There was always only one path, and there will forever be only one path. And that one path is loving God. That's it. To find that wonderful feeling in your heart and go to the depth of that wonderful feeling in your heart, you will discover that you and your life and God are exactly the same thing, and every single day connecting to that will open you deeper and allow you to extend your awareness ever increasingly finely through the field of experience itself. There may be the bhakti path and the jhana path and the raj and the this thing. It all boils down to the same thing. It is us connecting to our hearts and opening ourselves deeply to drink in our life and be nourished by it and grow up and give back to life whatever it is that we are called upon to give. Yes, there are peach trees and mango trees and blackberry bushes and apple trees and apricot trees and grapevines. Yes. tomatoes, habaneros. It's all fruit. It's all fruit. Maybe each of us has unique gifts to give back to the world once we have grown and flowered and matured. And maybe, each of those gifts that we, are blessed with requires a different soil or climate or something unique. Okay, fine. But it's still all fruit. And it all comes from the same process, which is the leaves of the trees and the vines reach out to the sun and take in the light and draw it to its core as they draw up from the earth the minerals, which are present in the place where they're planted, and bringing it all together in this extraordinarily complex chemical reaction, which we are all exactly the same in. Our fruits are expressed. Opening our own hearts to our core, appreciating, accepting our life, ourselves, just as we are. We take in from the soil all the nutrients that are there, and reaching to heaven, we take in from each other the light that radiates from all of our hearts, the love that radiates from all of our hearts, and we grow. In growing, plants reach to the light. In humans' growth, humans reach to the love. And loving God, loving our lives, loving ourselves, we discover the unity of it all. And all the rest of it is just the chemical reaction that happens around us. All the relationships, all the careers, all the money issues, all the sex, all the this thing and the that thing, and all the arguments we have with each other. It's all just part of the same soup. And it's nice, it can be a nice soup. But if it doesn't support you in lifting your spirit every day to the light, to the love, and taking that deeply within yourself, then it's useless and you need to change the recipe. Refine it a little bit. And in doing so, we will become complete human beings, and we will find total peace and happiness and discover the unimaginable abundance that is available to us in our core. That's what we're doing here, and let's get on with it. Love you guys, in case you didn't notice just now. And thank you for coming this evening. I'll talk to you next week.